Hey, what's going on, y'all? For those of you that don't know, I drive trucks. So most of my videos I do when I'm on the road, when I have a 30 minute break, or when I get done with my 10, or if I'm doing a reset. I try and make a couple of videos to help people out. And before I get into anything, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. There's a bell that you can click once you subscribe that will notify you once I make a video. And most of my videos are about, excuse me, is about credit. And sometimes I'll throw a trucking video in. And I want to reach more people. I want to do more videos. And for 2018, that's the plan for 2018. There's a few other things that I would like to do. But as you can see by the title of this video, it's about life after bankruptcy. And in this video, what I want to talk about is some of the steps that I wish I would have taken before I filed bankruptcy. And then I want to talk about life after bankruptcy, what the steps you should take after you filed bankruptcy. So, leading up to June of last year, I knew I was going to file bankruptcy, and I was speaking with different attorneys. And one of the things, some of the advice that I was given, I don't believe was the best advice. And I'm here to let you guys know the advice that I should have gotten. When you know you're going through bankruptcy, and I'm just going to take somebody, for example, let's say it's somebody that has a large medical bill that they just can't feasibly pay. So they're really thinking about bankruptcy. I'm not here to tell you if you should file bankruptcy or if you shouldn't file bankruptcy. That's not up to me. But if you have it in your mind that you are going to file bankruptcy, one of the steps that I was told was, since you're going to be filing bankruptcy, you don't have to pay your creditors. And if you ever receive that advice from an attorney, I just want you to know that's terrible advice. And here's why. When people think that when you go through bankruptcy, that it's going to, just the title bankruptcy is going to have such a damaging effect on your credit score that it's going to take you years to recover from. And it's not the title bankruptcy. Yes, you get that title that you have a bankruptcy on your credit report. But what damages your credit is all the events that led up to the bankruptcy. Like, let's say you couldn't pay your medical bill, so you got, a 90-day late on that. And then you couldn't pay a couple credit cards, so you got 30 days late on your credit cards. And let's say you had an auto loan or a mortgage and you couldn't pay that. And then you're struggling paying everything on time. And that's what kills your credit score. It's not the actual title bankruptcy. So what I wish I would have done was continue paying on all my credit cards and all my truck equipment and all this other stuff that I had, up to the point of discharge, right? Because once you file bankruptcy, you have a discharge. Once all your debts are discharged, that's when you're on your credit report, everything will say charged off in bankruptcy, and it will have a zero amount. But you still have those 30-day, 90-day lates and all that other stuff. And that was the thing that really destroyed my credit. Right now, I'm currently sitting, and now this is, understand, I don't know if you've seen my video where I went through my credit reports. I think I started After my bankruptcy, I started like in September working on my credit report. My credit scores were right around, right around 550, right around that point. There's a video on it. Today, my lowest credit score. Now, I'm talking FICO 08. All right, I'm not talking like Credit Karma, because those kind of free apps, they usually add 30 points, about 20 to 30 points on your FICO score. What I like to, when I say FICO score, I'm talking about like FICO 08. If you look at my credit score now, I'm in the 650 range, and that's just in 6 months. And there is nobody, I don't think there's anything worse that you could do to your credit report that I did to mine when I filed my bankruptcy, because I just stopped paying everything, right? And so what happens is, if you're thinking about filing bankruptcy, right? If you're thinking about it, you're going through and you're contemplating on if you should or you shouldn't, and then you get to the point in your heart where you say, I think bankruptcy is the best option for me. Pay all of your bills that you can pay, right? If you have a medical, right? And I'm just saying, if you have a medical situation and you have credit cards, you have to determine the things that you're going to keep in good standing. And what I mean by that is, if let's say it was me and I had a medical situation and then I had credit cards, but I know I can't pay everything, I'm going to continue paying my credit cards, right, until they discharge, right? I'll include them in the bankruptcy, but I'm going to keep paying them on time. Minimum payments. If I could pay my medical minimum payments, I'm going to continue paying all my bills minimum payments the best that I can. If something goes 30 days late, and then you come to your next month and you go, well, do I pay my 30-day late, right, and then let something else go late, or do I just let that 30 go to 60? I would say let that 30 go to 60, right? You don't want to incur a whole bunch of 30, 60-day lates on a whole bunch of different accounts. If you let one account go bad, let that account go bad. But don't try and, pay this account and then let another account go bad. All right? So that's one of the things I wish I would have done differently. Now, once you file bankruptcy, the process of filing bankruptcy is not that hard. It's not that complicated. If you're filing a Chapter 7, I had a whole bunch of business debt that I wanted taken out of my personal name because I was dissolving a business, right? And so in dissolving a business, if you personally guaranteed loans, you're responsible for those loans, right? And so because I had a whole bunch of equipment, I had to file bankruptcy. There was no way I was going to be able to pay all these creditors back when I was in the oil field and the oil field started going bad. It was hard to pay everything. So once I had it in my mind that I was going to file bankruptcy, I started talking with attorneys, and across the board, all the attorneys pretty much told me the same thing. You don't have to, once you file, you don't have to pay your bills. It's okay. Well, if your attorney doesn't file that paperwork on time, it can affect you, right? Or if you're still contemplating on if you're going to file bankruptcy, it can affect you. Me personally, I would continue paying all my bills, staying in contact with all my creditors, and letting them know, hey, look, this is the situation I'm going through. I'm filing bankruptcy, and I need you to work with me so that, I can get you as much as your money as possible. I'm filing Chapter 7, but I still want to give you as much as I possibly can until my debt's discharged. And they'll know exactly what you're talking about, right? Because sometimes it happens. I don't want to say the word, but it happens. Things happen in life. And sometimes you're in a situation doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you're irresponsible or whatever anybody else says, right? In your mindset, in your mind's eye, you have to realize your situation is unique. There's nobody that can tell you, no, don't file bankruptcy, or yes, you should file bankruptcy. You gather as much information as you possibly can, and you make the decision that you have to make on your own. And once you file your bankruptcy, you go to your meetings of creditors, which is about 30 days after you file. And when you go to your meeting of creditors, there's a trustee that sits there, and he asks you about all your debts. He asks you to make sure that these are all your debts. Are you aware of all your debts? He's going to ask you if you've taken your bankruptcy classes, right? Because there's bankruptcy classes that you have to take. They're not hard. They're just classes you do online. And when you go through these classes, you see that it's just real basic questions like, what are your bills? Stuff like that. It's not anything that you're not going to be able to grasp right away. So you take your classes, and in that meeting of creditors, that's what they call it, the meeting of creditors. You're sitting there, if you have an attorney, you're sitting there with your attorney, or it's just you and your trustee, and he just asks you some basic questions. He's going over your file, and he's asking you about your file. Now understand, he's going to do a little research, and I'll give you a perfect example. There was a young lady, because when I went to my bankruptcy, I went early, and I wanted to sit there and see what the whole process was. So I got to sit in on like maybe 5 or 6 cases before mine. And there was a young lady that she inherited property and didn't even know she inherited property, but the trustee knew she inherited property. And he included her property into her bankruptcy that she didn't even know about. So they do a little bit of research on your debts. It's not like they don't know anything. So if you're thinking that I'm going to hide this, I'm going to hide that, there's a really good chance that, they may find it. I'm not saying they will, because sometimes people will say, well, I'm not going to include this and I'll include that, or I'm not going to. That's your decision to make. But just know they do a little bit of research on you. And in that meeting with the trustee, once he goes over everything, he asks, is there any creditors here that want to dispute what you're saying, basically? And out of all the cases that I sat through, including mine, not one person stood up, and not one creditor stood up and said, I dispute, or I eject, I want them to pay me. Not one creditor showed up. Not one creditor even came to any of our cases. And I'm thinking, between the 5 or 6 cases that I heard before mine, at least one creditor, but not one showed up. And that was it. I filed bankruptcy. About 60 days after I filed, I received a letter from the government that said my debts were discharged. And once I received that letter, that's when I made it in my mind's eye that okay, here we go. We got to establish our credit again. We got to get going again. And what I did was, the very first thing was I went out and I got secure credit cards, right? I got 3 secure credit cards, and I started paying little bit. They were like, I think one of them was 500, one of them was 400, one of them was 300, right? And that's what I got my secure credit cards in. And I would just use 10% of that card to build my credit up, right? And then about a month after that, that's when I joined Self-Lender. And once I joined Self-Lender, about 3 months after that, that's when I started, actually started seeing our credit score jump really quick. And so the thing that I wanted to let you know, that when you decide that you want to file bankruptcy, don't be so discouraged that your credit report is going to be terrible, right? Here's the situation. I don't care how bad your credit report is, you can recover from it, right? If you have a collection item on your credit report, statute of limitations say that that item can only be on your credit report for 7 years, right? From the date that you missed your payment, from your late fee. So if it went to collections and it's on your credit report and it's 2 years past, that collection item really does not have a heavy weight on your credit score. Does it look bad to lenders? Absolutely, it looks bad. But your credit score isn't going to be in the tank like a lot of people think it is, right? Because I talk to people and the first thing they tell me is, I got bad credit. And chances are they don't have bad credit. They don't have any credit. Like, they don't have any credit. They think, light bill or a cable bill or, something like that is credit, and it's not credit. They put it on your credit report as a late pay, but nobody's extending you credit. Nobody's giving you money to manage. And that's the way you look at it. It's a managing of other people's money score, basically, is what it is. Can you manage other people's money? They give it to you in the form of a card, or in the form of a car, or in a form of shelter. How are you at paying that money back, right? Are you going to pay the money back if they give you money? That's credit, right? And that's what builds your credit score, right? The more items that you have on your credit report that you show that you could pay back, the better your credit score is going to be. So if you don't have credit on your credit report, you're going to have a low score, right? Doesn't mean necessarily your credit's bad. It just means you don't have credit. And I wish people will just start using that term, not bad credit. I don't have any credit. I don't care if you have collections and all that other stuff on your credit report. Do you have credit? That's the question. Do you have credit? So when you file bankruptcy and you get your discharge, your first thing that you have to do is get credit. Let's say you don't have a bankruptcy. Let's say you just don't have credit right now. What do you do to get credit? You get secure credit cards. And I don't care what anybody says about them being a bad thing. They're not bad, right? So I don't care how long you've been in the industry. In your opinion, if the only way that I know that you can build credit, right, is by getting credit. I don't know of any other way. I know that you could pay somebody and they'll put lines of credit on your credit report, but that's a whole nother video, and this video is about life after bankruptcy. Don't be discouraged. Don't be down on yourself. Don't be thinking that, because you're in your credit score is poor, or you're so intimidated that you don't want to look at your scores, or they're bad, so you don't look at your credit scores. Understand, the lower your credit score, the easier it is to get it from 400s to the 600s, or the 500s to the 600s. And once you start getting into the 650 range, that's when you start knowing you can apply for credit cards, like a second tier credit card, without getting, denied. Don't start going for like the Chase Sapphire and you're in the low sixes. Don't do that, because you're not gonna get approved. You start approving for like third tier credit cards, you're just gonna be denied, right? So you go from your secure credit cards to your second tier credit cards, right? Which is like a Credit One. I know they're terrible. Everybody's going to talk about them because they're fees. Credit One credit card. That's a second tier credit card. Capital One is a good second tier credit card. However, I'm going to say this about Capital One. if you ever get a Capital One card, that is one of the hardest credit card companies to deal with as far as getting items taken off your credit report. So if you ever get a Capital One credit card, just know, pay that sucker on time. Don't ever let it go late, and just know this card you're not gonna screw up, right? Because Capital One, they do not play when you're talking about trying to get it off your credit report. Can you get it off your credit report? Yes. Have I gotten it off credit reports? Yes, I have, actually. But it's hard. It's not it's a process of they will fight you tooth and nail every single time, and it's hard to get that card off your credit report. So those are like your second tier credit cards, right? And then, you know, when you start getting into your third tiers is when you start going to like banks and stuff like you know, Discover credit cards, you know, Chase, you know, Chase cards and stuff like that. That's when you start getting into the third, you know, your third tier credit cards, when you start actually really start going for higher balances, right? But in your first two, all you're trying to do is build credit, right? You're trying to go from secured to a low tier credit card that's going to hit you with a lot of fees. It's going to hit you with a lot of what's the word? A lot of fees, a lot of interest. It's going to be a high interest card, but you're building credit. It's just the cost of doing business, you know, and credit is a part of your business. You have to look at yourself like a business. But that's my spiel. I don't want to make this video too long, but this is for the people that are really interested in building credit, and they're going through a bankruptcy. They thought about going through a bankruptcy, or they went through a bankruptcy and they're trying to figure out, what do I do now? And I don't care where you are, what you do is you establish credit. All right, and that's it. You get somebody to give you some money, right? If you got to secure it, give them some money, and then they give it back to you. I don't care how you do it. You got to get somebody to give you some money. And a light bill is not credit. A cable bill is not credit. There's companies you can use your rent as credit, but typically rent is not credit, right? So credit is having somebody extend you a line of credit, giving you some money, whether to purchase a car, purchase a house, purchase a car, you know, via credit card, a loan, a personal loan, something like that. That's credit. And, you know, I just wanted to touch bases with you guys. I hope this video helps you. I'm fighting a bug right now, so, you know, I'm sitting in Ohio. It's like 1 degree outside, so excuse my voice if it's not strong. But you guys take care. I got some things coming down the pike in 2018. I'm not going to go into it on this video. Maybe in the next video, I'll do a video on what I'm trying to build in 2018. But I'm going to include a link to my book. If you guys haven't got a chance to download my book, please do so. All right. If you're not sure exactly how to deal with credit, just download the book. It helps you learn a little bit about, you know, how to negotiate with creditors. It talks about what's a credit score, why is one credit score completely different from another credit score, what are the credit bureaus. I send a lot of information to you so that you can get a grasp of all of this. All right, I'm not gonna stay too much longer. I'm probably gonna take some NyQuil or something and just call it the night. I'm not feeling well, but you guys have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.